On Christmas, my aunt opened the door, laughed in my face and said, "Nobody wants you here." My whole family was behind her, laughing too, so I left in silence, until my dad stormed out screaming my name. At Christmas dinner, my aunt opened the door with a look that could sour eggnog, rolled her eyes so deep I thought she might see her own soul, and said the most damning words I'd heard in years. "We don't want you here. Go ruin someone else's holiday." The chill in her voice cut sharper than the frosted air outside. I looked past her, through the doorway, into the warm glow of the house where laughter and conversation buzzed. My whole family sat around the table, forks in hands, plates full, faces bright. And then, like a punch to the gut, I saw it. They were laughing. Not just laughing together. They were laughing at me. Carla hadn't even closed the door yet, but the moment she stepped aside and glanced back over her shoulder, I caught it. A whisper, a smirk, a snide comment tossed across the room like a knife disguised as a joke. My cousin Greg choked on his drink. My sister covered her mouth like she was hiding a laugh, and even my mother smiled, for just a split second before turning away. It wasn't just exclusion. It was amusement, like my pain was the entertainment for the night. I didn't belong there, and worse, they knew it. They counted on it. I stood frozen with that tin of cookies in my hands, the same ones I'd baked the night before with shaky hope that maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. That hope was now smashed beneath the weight of Carla's cruelty and the echo of their laughter. So I did the only thing I could do without falling apart in front of them. I nodded, quietly, slowly, like someone finally accepting a verdict they'd been denying for years. "Got it," I whispered, and I turned away. I walked down those steps with my shoulders stiff, my throat burning, and my heart screaming to be anywhere else. I climbed into my car, set the cookie tin down on the passenger seat like a symbol of my foolish optimism, and just sat there. The laughter from inside still rang in my ears as I gripped the steering wheel, trying to decide where to go. I had no backup plan. Most of my friends were with their own families. I hadn't thought I'd need one. I thought stupidly, naively, that maybe this year would feel like home. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. "Where are you? Dinner's starting." I stared at the message, my fingers numb, my thoughts a whirl of confusion and hurt. So, she didn't know. I texted back. Carla said I wasn't welcome. I left. I waited. Minutes passed. No dots. No reply. Just silence. So I turned on the engine and started driving. No destination. Just movement. The road unfolding in front of me. The heater clicking on. The windshield clearing as if the universe was trying to offer me a better view. About 10 minutes later, as I pulled into a small gas station on 7th Street, planning to grab a coffee, maybe hide from the holiday altogether, my phone lit up again. Call from Dad. My heart leapt and sank all at once. We hadn't spoken much since last Christmas's fight. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but a stronger part told me to answer. I swiped and put it to my ear. "Where the hell are you?" he yelled, his voice crackling through the speaker. "What do you mean you left?" Before I could even respond, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A familiar blue truck pulled in behind me, and my dad jumped out. His hair a mess, his jacket half-zipped, eyes wild like a man who just realized he'd lost something precious. He slammed the truck door so hard it bounced open again. He slammed it shut with a curse and marched toward my driver's side door. "You left," he barked. "Why would you just walk away? Why wouldn't you come inside?" I rolled down the window halfway. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear myself speak. "I tried," I said. Carla answered the door. "She told me you didn't want me there." His mouth dropped open. No words, just a staggered breath. "I continued," she said. "We don't want you here. Go ruin someone else's holiday." So I did. I left. He staggered back like I'd slapped him. "That doesn't make any damn sense," he said, staring at the ground. "We set a place for you. Your mom made those weird mashed sweet potatoes you love." "Then why would she?" I asked, finally getting out of the car. "Why would anyone?" I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to feel like I belonged. But Carla made sure I knew exactly where I stood. He rubbed his face and muttered, "God damn it, Carla," across my arms. Did everyone else know? Or was it just her? No one knew, he said. Your mom's furious. Your sister's crying. Greg thought you ditched us. We were about to say grace when I realized your seat was empty. He looked me in the eye. I swear to you, kid. I didn't know. Kid. It had been years since he'd called me that. I looked away. Doesn't matter now. Carla said it like she spoke for everyone. Well, she didn't, he said, voice hardening. And I'm going back in there to make damn sure she knows it. Don't bother, I said. It's not like this is the first time I've been left out. She just said what everyone else was thinking. That's not true, he snapped. I've let too much slide trying to keep this family together. But not this. Not anymore. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in a long time, I saw him standing with me, not just near me. What do you mean? I mean, get in your car, he said. We're going back. You're walking through that door again. And Carla? She's explaining herself in front of everyone. He took a step closer to me, his voice lower now, but still shaking with the kind of rage that only comes from years of watching something go wrong and finally having the courage to do something about it. I've let too much go, he said again, almost whispering. Starting with the way they've treated you since you dropped out of college. Like you were less than. Like your job meant you failed. Like you weren't worth the seat at that table. His voice cracked just enough to break something in me. A wall maybe. Or that guard I always kept up whenever I was around them. I didn't respond right away. There was too much swirling inside me. Pain, doubt, anger, but also this strange flicker of relief. Relief that someone finally saw it. That I wasn't just imagining it. That I wasn't crazy or sensitive or too quiet. My dad looked at me again. This time his eyes softer but still fierce. You want to leave after dinner? Fine. But you're walking into that house because you deserve to be there. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can be the ones sitting outside this time. I stared at him, my jaw tight. For so long, I had tried to convince myself I didn't care anymore. That I was fine being the outcast. That their smiles meant nothing. That their conversations didn't sting every time they left me out. But now, with my father standing in front of me like a shield I never knew I had, I realized how much I had always wanted to be seen. To be defended. To be fought for. Finally, I nodded. Just once. But it was enough. We climbed back into our cars. Him in his rusty old Ford that groaned every time he turned the ignition. Me in my tiny Civic that still had the cookie tin sitting quietly on the seat beside me. We drove in silence, the only sounds being the wind outside, the hum of our engines, and the rhythmic blink of red brake lights whenever we stopped. It felt like a funeral march, but not for me, for the illusion that my family had always been whole. When we pulled into the driveway, I hesitated for a moment, my hands still on the steering wheel. The house was lit up like something out of a snow globe. Warm, inviting, cozy, a lie. But something had shifted now. My dad was already out of his truck, walking toward the door with purpose. He didn't even look back to see if I was following. He knew I would. He knocked hard, not politely, not softly. Just once, loud enough that the whole house probably heard it. The door opened slowly, and there she was again, Carla. Her face twisted slightly when she saw me standing behind him. First surprise, then that same tense, forced smile she used at every family gathering when she was about to say something rude disguised as concern. David, she said carefully, her eyes narrowing. Did you find him? Step aside, my father said, no warmth in his voice. Excuse me? You heard me. Move. He didn't wait for her to react. He walked right past her, shouldering his way inside like a man on a mission. I followed, holding the cookie tin against my chest like a shield. Carla said something behind us, probably trying to save face. But my dad was already speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. Everyone, I need your attention, he boomed. The room fell silent. My mother, mid-laugh, froze with a fork halfway to her mouth. My sister's smile dropped instantly. Greg put down the carving knife. One by one, their eyes found me, and it was like they were seeing a ghost. Or maybe just a mistake that had shown back up. I just found out why my son wasn't at the table tonight, my dad announced loudly. Carla told him he wasn't welcome. She opened the door, looked him in the eye, and told him to go ruin someone else's holiday. A collective gasp went through the room. Even my mother looked stunned. Carla, she said slowly, please tell me that's not true. Carla threw up her hands. That's not what I meant. He always looks miserable when he's here. I thought he didn't even want to come. I was trying to spare everyone the awkwardness. My dad stepped forward. So you decided for all of us? That he wasn't worth a seat? That we'd all just be better off laughing without him? I spoke up then, my voice clear and louder than I expected. They were laughing, I said. When she said it, I looked in, and you were all laughing. My sister's face crumpled instantly. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought you just didn't show. I tried, I said. I came, but Carla made sure I felt like trash on the porch before I could even step inside. Even Greg looked down at his plate. Man, I'm sorry, he mumbled. I didn't know either. My dad's voice cut through the room. You've been treating him like a joke for years, talking behind his back. Snide remarks about his apartment, his work, his life, and I let it slide because I didn't want to be the one who made a scene. He turned to Carla. But you made the scene. You lit the match. Carla opened her mouth again, but this time, my mom stood up. Carla, I think you should leave. What? Carla looked around, shocked. You're taking his side? We're taking the side of what's right, my mom said. Her voice didn't shake. He belongs here. You don't get to decide that. Carla glared at all of us, her mouth tightly shut, then turned on her heel and walked out without another word. The door clicked shut behind her, and for a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The laughter was gone. The room felt still, heavy, and yet somehow lighter. As soon as the door closed behind Carla, a strange stillness settled over the room. Not the kind that came from awkwardness or uncertainty, but the kind that comes right after a storm, when the winds have died down but the damage still lingers quietly in the corners. My dad let out a long, audible breath and looked at me, not like I was a problem he had to fix or a ghost who'd haunted his holidays, but like I was his son, his actual, real, living son, standing in his house finally acknowledged. Then he turned and looked at the table. Well, he said, his voice calmer now but still weighted with meaning. There's a plate with your name on it. Let's sit down. He didn't ask, he stated it. Like it was a fact that had always been true, even if no one else had acted like it. My mother was already shuffling around the table, moving chairs, making space as if she needed to erase any evidence that I'd ever been forgotten. My sister stepped forward, gently taking the cookie tin from my arms without saying a word, like she knew I needed both hands free just to keep my balance in that moment. She placed the tin at the center of the table, right next to the turkey and the cranberry sauce, and then returned to my side, guiding me to the empty seat they were just now making room for. I sat down slowly, half expecting someone to say it was a joke, that the chair was actually for someone else, that they didn't mean it. But nothing like that came. Instead, my mom placed a fresh plate in front of me, already loading it with food that was warm enough, though clearly had been sitting for a bit. She scooped the mashed sweet potatoes onto it, the ones only I ever ate, and then sat down beside me, her eyes glassy, her mouth quivering as she tried to find words. I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice so soft it barely made it over the clink of forks returning to plates. I should have opened the door. I didn't even know Carla got up. She swallowed hard. I was caught up in the moment. I was laughing with everyone else. I didn't say anything at first. Not because I was angry, though there was definitely still that biting burn in my chest, but because her saying it was more than I'd ever expected. She wasn't the kind to apologize. She was the type who'd bake a pie and hope you'd take that as a peace offering instead of asking for actual forgiveness. So hearing the words, that meant something. It's okay, I said quietly, though it wasn't. Not yet. But it was a start. No, she said, this time firmer. It's not, but I'll make sure it is. And there it was, a promise. Not just an apology, but a vow. And from my mother, that was like a binding contract written in generational ink. As the forks clinked again and conversation slowly resumed, much more measured, a bit more hesitant. There was still that lingering tension in the air, but now it had shifted. It wasn't centered on me anymore. If anything, it seemed like everyone else was now watching their words, careful not to say the wrong thing. For once, I wasn't the one shrinking in my chair or smiling through my teeth, while someone made a backhanded comment about my career or my quiet life. No one dared to say a word about my job this time. No one asked why I still rented or why I liked living alone. In fact, nobody even asked the typical fake questions they used to appear interested. Instead, my sister leaned in and said, I really did think you just didn't want to come. I'm so sorry. If I'd known what Carla said, you would have let me in? I asked, half joking, half wounded. Her eyes drooped. I would have slammed the door in her face and pulled you inside myself. And I believed her. Greg even cleared his throat and mumbled, Glad you came, man, which, coming from Greg, was basically a full-blown speech. Then, something small but significant happened. My mom took one of my cookies. She bit into it, nodded thoughtfully, then said, You always were the best at baking. And just like that, the cookie tin became part of the table. A symbol that maybe, just maybe, I was too. Later, as dessert was brought out, pecan pie, still my favorite, made from my grandmother's recipe. My dad gave me a nudge with his elbow. He didn't look at me when he spoke, but his voice was thick. I'm proud of you, you know, he said. Not just for coming, but for leaving. For not letting her talk to you like that. You didn't deserve that. You've never deserved any of it. I blinked back, the sudden heat in my eyes. I was too old to cry at a dinner table. Too broken in for that kind of release. But still, it happened. Quietly, I just nodded. Thanks for coming after me. Should have done it years ago, he replied. And that was the moment I realized something had shifted. Not just in him, but in all of us. A crack had opened in the foundation of our family, and maybe for the first time in a long time, some honest light was finally getting in. By the time I got up to leave that night, my sister had hugged me not once but twice. My mother packed me leftovers and kissed my cheek like she used to when I was a kid. Greg even slapped my shoulder in that awkward, masculine way that meant he didn't know how to say more but wanted to. And the cookie tin? Half empty, sitting proudly in the center of the table. Something I brought that actually stayed. I walked out the front door with my head high, and this time, when I looked back over my shoulder, I didn't feel that familiar ache, that deep, ugly feeling like I was watching a family I was never really part of. This time, I felt something different, something solid, like I was finally walking from family, not away from it, and that, more than any gift, more than any meal or apology, was the real gift that Christmas gave me. If you felt this story hit home, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts or similar experiences. Trust me, the next story is even wilder. You don't want to miss it.